I shorted Apple yesterday, and this is not typically what I do. What you're about to see is a video snippet from inside the boiler room. Every single morning before the open of the US stock markets, I analyze dozens of stocks and then decide on the trades that we're gonna look at for that day with dozens of traders. We all get together, execute trades, chat some, and make some money together on a Zoom conference call. Go to thepatterntrader.com/club to find out more. So on the top chart is the S&P. I've just put the daily charts. And, as a reference, just to see where we're at. And you can see we're flirting with this little breakout here. We've been in this kind of symmetrical triangle, playing right around, to me, it's like, playing with dynamite up here, trying to be long, it's just, it's risky stuff. You got this double bottom, a double top right here. You're right at this thing. And, I thought, well, maybe we could, have a fake pop out. Maybe we still do, but I just think you're playing with dynamite up here. And it's just a matter of time before we start kicking lower. I also want to talk about these narrow range bars. So you can see yesterday, the S&P, the range was not, it was like an inside bar. These narrow ranges at the top of a rally or a downswing, to me, these are not benign. What it represents to me is that the market made a new high, and then yesterday it couldn't make a new high. And it represents, kind of a coiling, a storing of energy, and they look very benign. But when we look back, this could be the peak of the market. These little inside bars, you take them out and you look back and you go, that was really the peak of it. You can see you had a very narrow range bar here. You have a very narrow range bar there. These little things, they look benign, but sometimes that's how these wars start. This is where I made a lot of money, right here. You had an inside bar right there, and that was the start of a nice little downswing. So, I always look for these things, and I know that they're much more, of a magnitude than they look. They look very benign, innocent, just hanging out there. And, I kind of look at how, the markets fluctuate. We could have gone up and then reversed. We could still open lower and go back up. So, how we play around these things is important. But, I just see that we've kind of got this uptrend line here. We're banging at the top side. I think we're in this trend. And I don't know why my computer does this, where it just doesn't let me draw the full line. So we're in the middle of this kind of trend. I just feel this thing wants to come back here, and we look like a top up here. So again, Microsoft opened $11 higher last night, and now we're $5 lower, $6 lower. So these charts look, not too dissimilar. We had this little bottom here in the S&P. We had this bottom here in Microsoft. We had this little bottom here. We had this little bottom here. And I've been staring at the chart of Microsoft for weeks now, wondering, is this a legitimate bottom? Is this a bottom that's going to sustain? And I thought, well, maybe we could even just get to 260, the top end of this range. But, the more I stared at this thing, in this whole downtrend, is you have this topping pattern up here. You have this head and shoulders pattern here. And then even though this looks kind of, it's amazing how you stare at things and then, you see something else that you never saw. And then in the middle of all this thing, I'm looking at this pattern right here. And, we really just came up to the trend line here. So this has been a downtrend. And, again, what has been just giving me conniptions is that we see the beginning of something and wonder, is that a bottom? Is that a bottom that can start, lifting this thing the other way? And I've been staring at this thing every day, wondering, and this is, what the market does. It throws us patterns. Sometimes the patterns to me are easier to see that they're not really real. But these I had to give credence, one way or another. But there was also this guy right here that gave me trouble. So we have this downtrend, you have this double top here, and you have this reversal. So this, to me, this guy's kind of controlling the show right in here. And again, you go into earnings, you have no clue. It could go either way, and it did go either way. And here again, you have this very benign inside bar. And that was another kind of flag to me yesterday. I knew this was not going to be, so here you can see how small this range is. And those are usually signals for a reversal. So I was, willing to see that this thing comes in higher and then goes lower. But as it turns out, we went much higher in the aftermarket. We were up at 252 in the aftermarket session, and now we're at 234. Where are we? We're at 230, under 235 now. So we opened up there, and now we're down there. So this, to me, I mean, you're not going to see this reversal because it's not going to include the night session. But, Microsoft and Apple, I've been saying, we're going to learn a lot from these two. And I think the effects of these two are going to start picking the next direction for the market. And hopefully we can start getting out of this meatball grind and start picking a direction. And it feels like that direction is now going to be lower, back in the secular trend. I shorted Apple yesterday. And this is not typically what I do. I always look for some clues of a turnaround. And this thing has just gone straight up 4 days in a row. But it was where it was trading. And I said, on this thing that, I hope I don't, act like a small cat and not do it when I see it. But when it got to 142, I said, I want to start, getting short. And yesterday didn't look like the right thing to do. And when I did it, it probably wasn't the right thing to do. But sometimes the best things are the hardest. So what we've been looking at for a long time is this long-term ascending broadening pattern, which can be a continuation pattern or a reversal pattern. And, I expected us to bang into the upside and then start reversing. And now we started, still going higher. But I also, was looking at this downtrend line right here. And that's why I picked that magic number of 142. I said in between 140 at the support line of the ascending broadening or the top side of this thing, that's where I want to start taking a shot. And I did in the form of put options because, the thing, if you short, you're exposed to, kind of sizable losses in the stock. Whereas if you take an option and it looked like a stupid bet, you only risk the premium. So I started buying all the way up yesterday. I started nibbling each increment higher in the 135 options, put options for February 10th. Earnings are February 2nd. So I wanted to give myself, some time after the earnings. And so it was an arbitrary strike price. I just wanted to buy something cheap. I started nibbling at these things at 2, and then I bought them down to $1.80. And now I can imagine they'll probably come in a little bit higher today. So I just shorted right there where there was no signal. Usually I wait for some kind of reversal. I usually look for some kind of confirmation that prices have kind of gone to an area, been rejected, and I can understand my risk and reward. But, puts and calls are a little bit, of a different animal. You got to actually buy puts into strength and sell calls into weakness. So you kind of got to understand what that pattern is going to do and then look for some counter trend energy. So I always look in, markets in terms of energy, where I'm looking for this thing to go down. So I look at this as like a pullback in order to go like that, like kind of the elastic band effect. And again, we have no sign of this run being exhausted yet. Usually, again, I'd like to see something like this, some kind of, area where it starts showing some reversals, and then I do it. And so I might have been early. We'll see what happens. Maybe the early bird catches the worm. But what I'm looking at is this construct. Forget about what I did and whatever. I'm looking at this huge double top. So, I mean, there's so many bear flags here. There's a double top. You have the symmetrical triangle here with this downtrend line and the uptrend line. And then you have the ascending broadening. So you have the intersect of three major patterns right there. And, I don't think that this is going to be able to reject its history. And I think this could be a juncture where we start flagging and setting up to go lower, certainly into earnings next week. But again, I think this is going to be a proxy for sentiment for the entire market because of the importance, the capitalization, the perception. So this is the whole shooting match right here. Hey, if you would like to trade alongside me every day and join our most prestigious program, then head over to thepatterntrader.com/club for more information.